Hey, Jason. So, just tell me how you got your start in mixed martial arts.
How did I get started in mixed martial arts? Well, I moved to San Luis Obispo in 1998 or so, and I got off work early and walked in a bar called the Library Lounge, and I met this guy, big guy, had a mohawk, tattooed side of his head. I kind of thought he was gay, compensating for something.
Right.
I just moved from Fresno out to the coast. And I talked to him, and I saw this ad on the side of the wall for slow kickboxing. A guy invites me to the gym, says, "Hey, check it out." After asking him the questions that he's always hearing, he goes, "Check it out." Next day, I show up, do a cardio kickboxing class, which was totally horrible because I was fat, out of shape. Talked to Scott Adams later that day, and he talked me into checking out the submission wrestling jiu-jitsu class the next day, which I did, and I excelled at it. So the big guy was Chuck Liddell. Of course, I thought I could whoop him. Yeah.
Right.
3 months later, I was winning grappling tournaments, and a year later, I did my first amateur fight, 2 in one day. I didn't even want to fight. I remember leg locking the first guy, and the second guy was there's no judges. So it was actually Larry Lamless, UFC ref Larry Lamless. He had set this event up at the back of a chiropractic office down in L.A. So we had this boxing ring, and there was apartment buildings on either side as like pay-per-view for these people.
Sure.
And I get out there with the second guy, and I didn't even want to fight the first fight. I ended up having to fight twice, and I pummeled that guy and pummeled him. And again, is either finish the fight or it's a draw. And I got, it was a draw. I remember his teammates coming up and telling me, you won the fight, right? And I'm like, really? So that day I went 1-0-1, but with his teammates coming up and saying, hey, you won the fight. What can you do?
Yeah.
A few months later, I did Scott Adams a favor and entered an 8-man welterweight MMA tournament up at Jackson, California under the IFC flag. And I ended up winning the tournament. 3 fights, 1 night.
Wow.
There, it's just like I tell people, hooked. Yeah. You got a couple thousand people screaming your name, and it's pretty exciting, And that's the gist of how I got started. It was all by accident. So.
That's awesome, man. So, from there, just talk about The Ultimate Fighter, getting into the house and everything. What was that experience like?
Oh, wow. What was the experience of getting into The Ultimate Fighter like? I kind of explain it to people. I see a lot of things when I imagine stuff. I see them in cartoon form or like a comic book type picture.
Sure.
And imagine being this picture of this kid on a starry night on top of this small hill, and he's standing on this wooden chair, foot on the top of the foot on the bottom of it, and he got a little net and reaching out there trying to catch a falling star. That's how impossible it was to me to get into The Ultimate Fighter. To be in the UFC, to be on a reality show. I hit 2 dreams in one shot. It was just unreal. To be there was life-changing. Being trained by Matt Hughes, Rich Franklin, 2 of the best guys in the world at that time. 2 of arguably the best guys ever. UFC Hall of Famers. It was a great experience. Made some good friends and learned some unreal stuff. Learned a lot about myself. What I'm capable of and what you can and can't do. The reality is, there's not much you can't do if you set your mind to it.
Hey, man. Well, looking back at your career, what would you say is your career highlight?
Fight career highlight? Wow, that's an interesting question. Fighting in the UFC. Just being able to be in a UFC event, 3 of them, was unreal. You could also say, main eventing a Strikeforce event. Wow. Away from that, but because of it, a few years back I got to do this, using Skype, I got to do this interview with this guy Kenny. He is a professor at Kentucky State University, and he had contacted me, and he worked for a one of his classes was an academic probation class. So there's like 30 kids in this class, young adults that were intelligent kids, but their grades were a little low. And he had me do this and talk to them motivationally about, setting goals, reaching them, not quitting. Personally, I thought that's the greatest thing ever. To be able to reach out to the youth of America and say, hey, don't give up because, you're our future. So fighting-wise, it's just being in the UFC.
Right.
Outside of that, I think that was the most awesome thing ever. Making a difference somewhere.
Hey, man, so let's talk a little bit about the Von Flue choke. How was it developed? Just talk about it.
Let's see, the Von Flue choke. Well, first and foremost, you got to give props to Pedro Sawyer. I was traveling back in the beginning of '03, and I was in Salt Lake City visiting family. And I went to one of his schools there, and he was in, and he was gracious enough to loan me a gi and let me join his class for the night. And like I tell people, with the seminar, or you go somewhere, if you can learn one thing per hour, that's awesome. You don't need to learn everything; you just learn one thing. Of the hour and a half that I was there, I remember him showing me this guillotine counter, where you're inside of a guillotine, you hike your hips up, arm comes over the opponent's neck and underneath and locks, and you could perform a choke from there. So after I left the school, I headed out to Michigan for a week or a month to teach some jiu-jitsu to a stand-up school. I came home and I played with this. And I realized I could use the same counter in half guard and side mount. And I played with it, and in, '03, August of '03 and October of '03, I was fighting at the Palace in Lemoore under the WEC banner, and I choked out both of my opponents with this choke in the first round. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, I'm not full of poop. I actually got video evidence of this. So I hit the reality show, and afterwards in January of '06 on Ultimate Fight Night 3, I got to use it on Alex Alexis and finish him in the third round. And that was pretty phenomenal. To be able to do something that nobody's ever seen before, and then get it named after you. Yeah. I got etched into history permanently in the jiu-jitsu world. So.
Yeah, and I was going to say, it must be pretty cool that, you're watching a broadcast and still mention the Von Flue choke. Your name's in the history books now.
As I said, it is awesome. A lot of people hit me up, talk to me. Jason Von Flue, who's he? Oh, that guy, he has his own choke, right? Yeah, every now and then I'll do a seminar. I get people coming through the school that interested in learning the choke, and I got to explain to them, well, before I can show you this choke, I got to show you some basics. So, it's a good selling point, a good way to hitch people in.
Sure, man.
Because you show them the best thing that you got, they're gonna take that and knock them back. So, I do watch videos on YouTube a lot. I'll skim through there. And I notice that there's a lot of people that are showing the choke and stuff. For the record, most of you guys do something wrong in it. I'm really thinking about putting my own video out or something. Show you guys
should, man.
How to properly do it. All of you guys are close. Quite a few people have demos on it. Really close. So maybe I should.
I think you need to get on that, man. Okay, so let's just talk about your decision to retire a few years back.
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, let's scratch the retirement point on that.
Oh, okay.
Let's call it a long break.
A long break.
A long break. Now, my last fight was in '09.
Right.
And I started fighting back in '98, and that's 11 years straight. And you accumulate a lot of injuries, through that time, and things don't heal. So, I've taken a 3-year break, let my body heal up. It's taken a lot of damage. I'm feeling a lot better these days, and I instruct a lot. I still train. I'd like to fight maybe later this year, if not the beginning of next year. And like I tell people, like I was saying about getting into UFC and the Ultimate Fighter the first time, I mean, just getting into those shows that early and stuff was unreal and not probable. Me getting back in the UFC is not probable. But I got in there once. I'd like to retire there. Formally.
That'd be cool.
So.
Okay, another question that I have. We've been asking a lot of the fighters this one. What do you think about open scoring in mixed martial arts? If after the round, the fighter and the fans could see the judges' scores posted on a scoreboard in the arena?
Interesting point. I mean, you're going to get a lot of people hating judges, but it's going to force the judges to be a lot better.
Right.
Yeah. If you're going to go to that degree, of, okay, let's openly show what the judges are doing, then you're going to bring up another problem, and that's judging. And what I think the only real true fix on getting better judging in there is, as kids that when we do get around to retiring, we would probably be the best judges. The first generation of fighters are on their way out now. And, like Liddell, he lucked out in good graces of the UFC, and he has a career there. But there's a lot of fighters that don't have that opportunity, may or may not own their own gym. They should look into being judges. There's a lot of great martial artists out there that are judges, but some of them are stand-up fighters. Some of them are this, that, the other. What you need is true MMA fighters being judges. And worst case scenario, having these fighters teach classes on how to be a judge.
Hey man, a lot of injuries right now in the sport. Back in the day, the guys would never pull out a fight. They'd have to be in pretty bad shape to pull out of a fight. What do you think about all the injuries in the sport right now, especially the injuries happening during training?
Well, I think you have the same amount of injuries going on, percentage-wise. The thing is the UFC has fights every other weekend. This weekend, you got their live TV show Friday night, tonight, and then tomorrow you got a big UFC. Yeah. That's, what is that, almost 30 fights in 2 days with the UFC? And then in 2 weekends from now, you got another big UFC. When you have this much volume of fighting, you're going to have, a lot of injuries. It's still the same percentage. The money's getting bigger and so on and so forth. The hype's getting bigger. Fighters are training their butts off trying to be the best that they can be, to move up the ranks. And injuries will occur. One of the first things that, Dana White will tell you at a UFC weigh-in, hey, don't leave it in the judge's hands. We put these finish bonuses out there because we want you to go out there and showcase. We want you to finish the fight. With fighters now knowing that, they're training harder. They're working harder. You're going to have these injuries. So you could look at injuries as, oh God, that's horrific, or it's another opportunity for a guy to step up and take a chance or an opportunity to get into those higher profile fights. I see it as an opportunity. It sucks for the guy getting hurt, but you got to take advantage of it. The fight doesn't get canceled. Generally speaking, they just fill in with another guy.
Hey man, is there anything you'd like to promote to the fans? Maybe throw out your Facebook or Twitter?
Okay, well, first of all, good friend of mine, Joe Abbott, owns KOBC, back East Coast. Great friend, great product he has. My Facebook account is me, Jason Von Flue, and I respond to everybody. You know, so if you add me or message me, I get back to you. I might not get back to you today, but I'll get back to you right away. Livewire MMA. You know, I'm out here in Fresno, California, more precisely Clovis, California, right next door. You know, building a gym. I want my own facility, and I'm teaching all my own classes. You know, teaching people the right way about MMA, not rushing their way into things. It's about long term, not getting hurt now because you got to fight. About learning some skills and possibly learning how to teach in the long run. So,
awesome, man.
And one other, photos by Lainey.com. Yeah, that's my fiance. She's an awesome photographer. I better do that because when she sees this video and doesn't hear me propping her out, she's going to slap the tar out of me.
Nice, nice. So this video will probably be posted tomorrow. So let's get a prediction from you. The main event in tomorrow's pay-per-view for UFC. It's Rich Ace Franklin versus Wanderlei Silva. Vanderlei Silva. Whatever.
Yeah, Bandy baby.
Yeah.
Rich beat him once. I think Rich has the ability to beat him a second time. I mean, if you go back, look at some history, you know, Rich knocks out Chuck Liddell, unanimous decisions, Vanderlei. Rich also already has a win on him. I know that Vanderlei's, recouped a lot, changed some stuff up, you know, had some surgeries to get rid of scar tissue and such. But I still think that even in a hometown crowd, I think Rich pulls it off by decision.